Hey, this is Jack Downs with a little intro to Audacity video to help you as you're getting going on this. You have instructions, which are probably mostly sufficient, but you'll use this video to help you along too. And I'll be giving you some other tips and tricks as we go also. Please don't just do this to do the assignment. Do play around and practice on your own also. Do notice as I start up Audacity that you get this screen that reminds you about getting help, but also about the tutorials that are available. So do consider going through more of those. More time spent with Audacity now, the better. Also, the instructions will talk about making your folders and making and I made a folder and I made subfolders, right? And I've downloaded into resource the 4 audio files that you need for this project, downloaded from Brightspace. And I talk and say in instructions that you should listen to these first. First, we're going to work with the music file, and you should listen to these to see which one you want to play with, which one you want to use, giving you a choice, in other words. So you can use whatever one you like the most, whichever one you want to work with. And I suggest you could do this outside the program. And of course, you could by playing it or play with a certain player which you might have access to. But you know what? Let's do something different. Why not just do this in the program? I can show you something else at the same time. In general, to get audio into the program, we go File, Import Audio. And yes, you could drag and drop. But I like to do it this way. I'm actually going to select all 3 of those and take them in at once. And they're going to line up here on in my timeline area. And I can see them all by using the scroll bar on the right side if there's not quite enough room. Do I want to just hit play to listen to them? Well, let's see what happens if I do. It's a jumbled mess because it's playing them all at once, and that wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to select one at a time and use solo, the solo option, or I could mute the other 2 as an option too. See these mute and solo buttons? Very useful. There they are. Do notice that the active track has the yellow around it, but still it would play anything at the time if you just hit play overall. So I'm going to go to this one, for instance. I'm going to click on solo. All right. And the other ones are now grayed out, you notice? And now I can hit play, or I can use spacebar for play, remember? And let's say I wanted that one. Well, I could remove the others. I'm actually going to use this top one myself. So I'm going to hit the X's in the corners are the ones I'm not going to edit. Could you edit the others? I have to hit solo and solo again here. Could you edit one and just have the others sitting there? Yes, you certainly could. It'd just be easier to see if we just have one at a time. I tell you in the instructions I want you to select 1 minute from this, to turn this into 1 minute, in other words. How could you do that? Well, you could just delete from the end down to 1 minute. There's the 1 minute mark. See how it is? But I think it makes more sense to find some place within it you want to start and then stop after 1 minute. You should probably listen to the whole thing first. I'm not going to do that. But what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to make a selection someplace. All right. How do I know how much I selected? I can look down here to how many seconds it is. I've changed these, by the way. I'm not sure how yours are set. I've changed these readouts down here to seconds. You should consider doing that also. This is showing me the starting point and then the ending point. This is just showing me the starting point, which is not that useful, I don't think, but it could be useful. So this is showing me the starting point and the total selection total, which is at 46 seconds right now. All right, I can change this selection though. I could change it by putting my arrow, getting my cursor next to the edge of the selection on the inside of it, and it becomes a hand. I can change it. See, I'm changing my selection. I'm watching that numbers down there. I'm going to take these 60 seconds. You use your own track, take your own 60 seconds. Okay, maybe you want to listen though to see whether this is the 60 seconds you want. I could listen to the few seconds right before it by hovering with my cursor here, and I'm going to use the B key. Well, first of all, what happens if I just hit the space bar to play, or I just hit the play key? It's going to play the selection, which could be useful. You could listen through the whole selection. Good. However, what if you want to just hear a little bit before the selection, or just want to hear a little bit of the beginning of the selection, or a little bit of the end of the selection, or a little bit after the selection? Well, if you put your cursor where you want, but don't click, just hover your cursor where you want to begin listening and hit the B key, it'll play to the selection or play from the selection, play from the selection to the cursor, or the same thing on the end, and then down here. So B, the B key is really useful. Another really useful key is the C key. That shows you a cut preview. So if we wanted to delete this, but wanted to hear beforehand that selected part, want to hear what it would sound like with that deleted, we could use that. Anyway, I've decided, I've done this too quickly, you spend more time, that those are the 60 seconds I want. I think a good thing to do, it's not completely necessary, it's mentioned in your handout though, is go to select and at 0 crossings. What this does is it makes sure that it's cutting it, it made a tiny change to the selection to make sure it's cutting it at where the waveform is crossing the 0 line. The 0 line. Remember that you can, if we're gonna zoom in, like way zoomed in, way in, we can see that this is the waveform super zoomed in, right? And we can see it crosses the occasionally these tiny fractions of a second crosses the axis, and we want both sides to be crossing the axis, so it kind of links together nicely. All right. What else? I'm going to go to. I'm going to fit the whole project. These buttons are very useful also. Fit project and width, or fit selection. I just want to see the selection, or I want to see the whole project. Those buttons are very useful too. And there's plain old zoom. This is the zoom, super zoom, and then this is the zoom plus or minus here. And then this is silence audio and trim audio. Outside selection, which is Control T, which is what we're going to do. So that's the trim button there. But we can also find it under Edit, Remove Special, Trim Audio. Control T. Okay. Control T. I'm going to hit, and it's going to just give me that. But now my clip is in the wrong place in the timeline. Can I just drag it here? No, I can't. Man, that will give me a selection. I can drag it here with this clip handle. Right, and I want to make sure I just bring it to the 0 point, right there. See how it clicks, but don't go beyond. It would let you go beyond 0, which I don't really know the benefit of that, but it would let you do it. But we don't want to. We want to go just to there. All right, and then I'm going to tell you about zooming in more. Again, remind you, and also about this fade in, fade out. We're going to do. I'm just going to do the fade out. Let's say you can do the fade in yourself. I want to just select like 2 seconds of the end of this. Well, I can't see 2 seconds very easily there. I've selected 4 seconds accidentally. That's still more than I need. I'm going to just select an area there and then zoom into that selection. So I can see that my 2 seconds, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. There, I can see my seconds a little better there. This is 2 seconds. If you zoom in too much, it can be a little hard to tell where the seconds are. And you can change the zoom a little bit right here. With plus and minus. So I'm gonna select 2 seconds at the end, roughly 2 seconds. And I'm gonna do Effect Fade Out. It's gonna fade it from there to there at 0. Want to hear what it sounds like? Okay, it just fades it out nicely, so it's not a super abrupt ending. We do fade music typically 1 or 2 seconds. 2 seconds is good probably. But we tend not to fade voice because, of course, you want to hear all the words properly. I'm going to look at the entire project again like that. I didn't fade the beginning. I want you to do that. But I will do the last thing you're going to do here. I'm going to select the whole thing. I can do a triple click in it or double click in it or do Control A. I'm going to do Effect Normalize. Normalize, change the amplitude of everything to a certain level. -1 is good, and these other buttons are fine to leave here too. And I could do preview. It would tell me, play it for me at that level, but not necessary. I just hit apply. And see, it makes the whole thing just slightly smaller. It was a little bit too big. And I'm going to assume you did the other fade in already before that. And then you're going to do what? You're going to export. Export MP3. Oh, shoot. You know what I didn't do? shoot, I got to do save as, save project. I'm going to save the project. I'm going to call it, not music edit. I'm going to call this intro Audacity. Intro odd. Let's call this music. All right, and I'm going to save this. Not there. I'm going to go to my folders and put this in working, was where I save my projects. It's an AUP file, which is correct. And then I would do my file export as MP3, and I want to do this in grading. It looks like I already have one there, but I wouldn't want to call it that. I think I tell you to call it something like add your name to it, right? And I'm not that, I don't care so much about the name as long as you do something that makes sense and try to include your name in the file too. So I'm going to save that there. Let's say I have one, which we'll ignore, and I'm going to hit save. And we can always just ignore this metadata stuff and just say okay. And it takes a moment, but not very long. Now in my and you can remove this track. My instructions, I think, say something about starting fresh again, but I don't think you really have to. You could just go File, Import, Audio, and now bring in the voice. Okay, good. But you know what? We should save our project as a new, do save as a new project into working again. Yes, I'm going to call it intro odd voice. So I don't overwrite the other project. I can save this as a different project there. So I have two projects now in the working folder. Good. And it's got that new name on it. Okay, so the instructions for the voice tell you to you're gonna hear there's some dead air if you play this, and you should certainly play it and listen to it.
From the city of Plattsburgh, 4th of July.
You see this dead air at the beginning and end? I'm going to get rid of that. How do you remove audio? Just select and hit the delete key. This is called the tip and the tail. It's good to have a little bit of extra recording time in the tip and the tail, but when we go to edit, we typically remove it unless we're combining it with other files or so on. So we did that. Then it tells you to, let's see, what does it say then? I want you to remove, remove the pauses. Oh yeah. I don't think there's internal pauses you need to remove. Okay. I do think I ask you to remove the words for audio video productions. For audio video productions. So if you listen to this, you're going to hear, let's play it again. Whoops. Move back to the beginning.
From the city of Plattsburgh, 4th of July parade for audio video productions, I'm John Burgess.
Okay, so in here someplace it says for audio video productions. And you're going to have to spend some time selecting that to find it. I'm going to try
for
that.
Audio video production.
And of course I've done this before, so I got it very easily. Do notice that the waveform is giving you some visual cues. Now you can change the selection slightly, so you don't make sure you don't cut in the middle of a word. And this is a good place then to use the C, which is a cut preview. It would help you listen to it as if that was removed.
City of Plattsburgh, 4th of July parade. I'm John.
Okay, and you see I need to get this out here a little bit further. Eventually you will get that
City
right.
City of Plattsburgh, 4th of July parade. I'm John Burgess.
Parade has got a little bit extra space on it. I'm just going to listen to this with a B here.
Parade.
So I can change that. So you're going to make minor changes back and forth to get it where you want it. C is a good tool to cut preview to listen to what it sounds like. This is the playback speed. You could change that if you want to. If you want to playback slower so you can hear it better. Eventually you'll get it where you want to. I'm not going to spend the time to do it here. It's your job. I will be listening to these though, so make sure you get a good cut. And then make sure when you get the cut you want, that you go ahead and select at 0 crossings, which will make a very tiny change to the selection, and hopefully to avoid a pop, a little noise at the cut. And then we're not doing a trim this time. We're not saving this part. We're deleting this part. So you can just hit the delete key, and it will delete it together. Another option would have been you could have done a split. Right? You could have put a split mark at the beginning, at the end of that, and then push them together. I think it makes more sense to delete like that. And then I tell you to go ahead and to normalize again. You want to normalize again. I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to do effect normalize, and the settings are still fine. It made it slightly bigger this time. And then of course you do a file export. It doesn't have to all be selected right now. And you can give it a new name. The intro odd voice is fine. And it's actually, no, I'll put my name on it too. It's Jack. Jack intro odd voice would be fine too. And I'm going to hit save, and I can say OK. And you might think, OK, I'm all done. You could save your project, of course, again. Well, please remember one last step before you go to Brightspace and make sure you upload it properly. Please remember, well, two last steps. First of all, you should be keeping track of what you're doing with your checklist, which I want you to hand in class. On paper checklist, it's the last page of the assignment you were given. But also, please remember that you should go look at the files that you created. So I'm going to go into my grading. I have an extra one, right? You don't. And what are you going to do with these? I want you to listen to them to make sure they are what you expected to get by using them, by listening to them in a player outside of the program. Make sure you've got what you expected before you have what you want before you upload it to Brightspace. Okay, that's about it for this assignment. Tell me if you have any questions.